I'm here today to talk to you about the need for a school resource officer in each of the schools in our state. For those of you who do not know what a school resource officer is, briefly, a school resource officer, sometimes referred to as a CRO, SRO, is a police officer who is assigned to a certain school and is responsible for ensuring the safety of the students and staff at that particular school. A school resource officer works to prevent juvenile delinquency by becoming a positive role model for youth and promoting a good relationship between the youth and law enforcement. There are three major components that allow a school resource officer to successfully do his job. These components are law enforcement, counseling, and education. The SRO can take a proactive approach to law enforcement by taking advantage of these three components. The responsibilities of an SRO aren't just keeping all the staff and students safe. They also provide all the law enforcement duties on that particular campus. SROs also teach students about law enforcement and other similar topics while also counseling students and parents on various subjects. The tragic incident at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado left 15 people dead and injured 21 more. The presence of a school resource officer at the school could have saved the lives of those killed in the massacre. Had there been an SRO at the school at that time of the shooting, that officer could have ended the situation much sooner and without the loss of as many lives that followed. An SRO could have possibly helped to prevent the shooting. One way this could have been done is that the presence of a police officer alone could have deterred the shooters. Another way would have been for the SRO to notice any changes in the shooter's behavior. If an SRO had noticed anything unusual about the shooters, he or she could have pulled them aside and talked to them and asked them if they had been having any problems at school or at home. If the SRO had found that the shooters had any problems, he or she could have had a school counselor or another similar person talk to the individuals and try to help them with the problems they were having. Another example of a situation where an SRO could have saved many lives is the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. The presence of an SRO at this school could have saved many lives and possibly even prevented the shooting. One way an SRO could have helped with this situation would have been to have the officer positioned near the front entrance of the school. Had there been an SRO at the school, he or she could have stopped the shooter before he gained access to the school, therefore greatly reducing the amount of lives that were lost. Having an SRO in schools could help to prevent the loss of lives of teachers and students in situations such as those that occurred at Columbine and Sandy Hook schools. An SRO is a valuable tool for all schools and should be placed in all schools whether the school is public or private and regardless of how big or how small the school is. The need for SROs in our schools is not only in the event of an individual or individuals' intent on doing harm to as many people as possible. They would also be extremely helpful in combating illegal drugs and gang activity in our schools. None of us like to think that these events take place in our schools, but we all know from the news media that drugs and gang activities do take place in schools, and some are even in elementary schools. There are some people who will argue that there is not enough money in the state and local school budgets to accommodate an SRO in each school, but I say that the protection of this nation's greatest assets, our children, should be the state's first priority, followed by their education. There are some who will argue that the presence of an SRO in the schools will foster fear and anxiety in our children. But I do not agree with this. An SRO in each school will enable the law enforcement community to have a positive impact on the communities and develop positive relationships with our children. Instead of our children being fearful or anxious about police officers in their school, I believe that they will be greatly comforted by the protection that the police officer will provide. We are unfortunately living in a different time from when our grandparents and parents went to school. SROs are needed to keep our children safe.